Last March, I read something that broke me in a way no bankruptcy, no divorce, no diagnosis ever could. My daughter's husband forwarded me an email by accident, a session summary from her therapist. One line, that's all it took. My father's money was his way of avoiding me. I paid for Harvard, 4 years, full ride out of my pocket. I paid for the wedding, 300 guests, a string quartet. I paid the down payment on their house, the one with the garden she always wanted, and she sat in a stranger's office and said I ruined her life. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my truck in the driveway with the engine off, just staring at the garage door, because the worst part wasn't that she said it. The worst part was that she might be right. Here's what they told us, what they drilled into our skulls since we were boys. A good man provides, a good man sacrifices, a good man works until his hands crack and his back gives out and his kids have everything he never did. That was the deal. Nobody shook your hand and said it out loud. They didn't have to. It was in every commercial, every Father's Day card, every time someone said he worked himself to the bone for that family. That was a compliment. That was the goal. It wasn't a compliment. It was a job description, written by people who needed you at your desk, not at the dinner table, not at the school play, not on the floor building a puzzle with your kid on a Tuesday night. The economy needed your hours, your boss needed your weekends, and your family got whatever was left, which was usually a tired man in a recliner who couldn't listen to a story about a school project without checking his phone. And you told yourself it was noble. You told yourself they'll understand when they're older. You told yourself the money was the message. The money was a receipt. That's all. A receipt that said, I was here. Sort of, from a distance. I know because I lived it. I worked 50, 60-hour weeks for decades, missed recitals, missed her first heartbreak. Missed the age where she still wanted to sit on my lap and tell me about her day. And by the time I had the time, she didn't have the interest. That's the scam. They take your best years and sell them back to you as a good living. But the living happens at home. In the kitchen, in the hallway at bedtime, in the car rides that go nowhere and you weren't there, because a good man provides. That's the lie, and I bought it wholesale. Let me tell you about Murray. Murray was my closest friend for 30 years. We met on a job site in 1989, both of us young, both of us hungry, both of us convinced that hard work was the whole answer. Murray did everything right, by the book. 41 years at the same firm. Never missed a Monday, never complained. He had 2 kids, a boy and a girl. He paid for both their colleges, paid for both their weddings, put down payments on both their homes. He used to say to me, Frank, they're set. That's all that matters. They're set. Murray dropped dead at 63, a Tuesday morning, heart attack in his kitchen. Still had his coffee mug in his hand when his wife found him. The mug didn't even break. He just slid down against the counter like he was taking a rest. I went to the funeral. Wore the gray suit, sat in the 3rd row. His son got up to speak, big kid, broad shoulders. Looked just like Murray. He stood at that microphone for a long time, too long. The room started to shift. Then he said 6 words. I wish he'd just been home. That was it. He walked back to his seat. Didn't say anything else. Didn't need to. And the room went dead quiet, not the polite quiet you get at funerals, the scared quiet. The kind where every man in the room is doing math in his head, adding up the missed dinners, the canceled camping trips, the times they said, next weekend, I promise. I looked around that room. I saw it on every face, the same look, guilt dressed up in a black tie. Murray gave his kids everything, everything except Murray. And I sat there thinking, that's me, I'm next. And my daughter already knows it. I drove home that night with the radio off, just the sound of the highway and my own breathing, and the weight of all those years I can't get back sitting in the passenger seat like a ghost. All right, enough grief, enough looking backward. If you're still breathing, you're not Murray. You still have a window, a small one, but it's open. So here's what you do. 3 tests, no fluff, no therapy jargon. Just honest questions you ask yourself tonight, not tomorrow. Tonight, test number 1. The phone test. Pick up your phone right now. Scroll to your kid's name. Look at the last 10 conversations. How many of them were about nothing? Not money, not logistics, not what time is dinner or did you get the check. Nothing. A joke. A weird thing they saw. A song that reminded them of you. If every conversation is transactional, you are not a father. You are a bank with a heartbeat. And banks don't get called on Sunday mornings just because someone missed them. Test number 2, the story test. Can you name your daughter's 3 closest friends, not from college, right now, today? Can you name the thing keeping her up at night? The thing she's afraid of but won't post about online? If you can't, let that sink in. You paid for a house for a woman you don't actually know. You funded a life you've never been invited into. And that's not her fault. That's your receipt coming due. Test number 3, the silence test. Next time you're with your kid, turn everything off. No television, no phone, no task to hide behind, no grill to stand at, just a room, 2 chairs, 30 minutes. If it's comfortable, you're okay. You've got something real. If it's unbearable, if you're reaching for your pocket, if you're scanning for something to fix or comment on just to fill the dead air, that silence is not awkward. That silence is the distance, measured in years of absence, and it's sitting right there between you like a third person in the room. I failed all 3 tests, every single one. And I'm telling you this because I don't want you to sit in a truck in your driveway at 67 years old reading about yourself in a therapist's notes. If any of this hit you in the chest just now, leave a comment. Tell me which test you failed. I need to know I'm not the only one sitting in this silence. Let me tell you what wealth actually is, because I got it wrong for 40 years. Wealth is not the tuition check. It's not the mortgage payment. It's not the envelope you slide across the table at Thanksgiving with a little too much pride in your eyes. Wealth between a father and a child is measured in one thing: access. How much of their real life do they let you see? When your daughter calls you to tell you she got the promotion, that's nice. That's a press release. She'd tell a coworker that. She'd post that online for strangers. But when your daughter calls you to say she's scared, that her marriage feels quiet, that she doesn't know if she's a good mother, that she had a dream about being a kid again and woke up crying, that's wealth. That is the only currency that matters. And you cannot earn it with overtime. You cannot wire transfer it. You cannot catch up on it in one big vacation where everyone pretends to be close for a week in a rented house. You earn it one small moment at a time, by being present when nothing is happening, by listening to the boring story, by sitting through the silence without trying to fix it, by showing up on a Wednesday for no reason at all. I miss that. I thought I was building something every time I signed a check. I was building a wall, brick by brick, dollar by dollar, until my daughter had everything she needed and none of what she wanted. She wanted me, not my wallet, me, the real version. The one who asks questions and waits for the answer. The one who remembers the name of her friend going through a hard time. The one who says, "Tell me more about that," instead of, "Do you need money for that?" I was so busy being a provider that I forgot to be a person. And that's the tragedy, not that I failed, but that I succeeded at the wrong thing for decades. With total commitment, I was the best at something that didn't matter. A perfectly built house with no one inside. I'm 67. My knees ache when it rains. My doctor uses words like monitoring and baseline, and I know what those words really mean. They mean the clock is no longer a metaphor. It's a sound I hear in every quiet room. I don't have decades, nobody does, but I especially don't. If I'm lucky, I get 15 more Christmases, maybe 12, where I can still drive myself there. Maybe 8 where I remember everyone's name without pausing too long. That's not a lot of chances. And I'm not spending another one sitting at the end of a long table being politely thanked, like a distant uncle who sends gift cards, like a sponsor, like a man who earned a seat but not a conversation. I called my daughter last week. First time in years I called with nothing to offer, no check, no solution, no reason. I just said I was thinking about you. Tell me something. She was quiet for a long time. I could hear her breathing. I think she was deciding whether I meant it. Then she told me about her garden, how the tomatoes weren't growing right, how she thinks the soil needs something but she doesn't know what. It was the most boring story I've ever heard. It was the best phone call of my life. Fixed. We're not fixed. There's too much distance to close in whatever years I have left. I know that. She probably knows that too, but I'd rather spend my last years reaching than my last years writing checks from across the room. So here's what I'll say to you, and I mean this. If your kid is still alive, if they still pick up the phone, even just sometimes, even if it's short, even if it's cold, the window is open. Don't waste another year buying what can only be built. Don't die like Murray, coffee in your hand. Everything paid for, nothing settled. Pick up the phone tonight. Say nothing important. That's the whole point. And if this one got to you, if you're sitting there right now running the math on your own life, leave a comment. Not for me, for the other men watching this alone in their trucks, in their offices, in their quiet houses. Let them know they're not the only ones who got it wrong. There's still time. Not much, but some. Don't waste it providing. Start showing up.